Welcome to the Winning Platform Owner Podcast, the podcast dedicated to enabling ServiceNow platform owners with valuable knowledge, tools, and strategies. ServiceNow is such a powerful platform. The core platform capabilities alone can be game-changing for a lot of organizations, not to mention all of the various applications and their features that you can utilize on the platform. In fact, if you were at Knowledge 24 this past week, you heard a lot about all of the new AI features on the platform. AI isn't new to the platform, but there's a lot of focus on AI features now. So a lot of power. And the question then becomes, why do many organizations struggle to take advantage of all of that power? Well, there's usually more than one reason, right? But I want to zero in on one thing I see pretty often, and it has to do with training. But not just training in general, it's a few specific aspects of it and a key persona. So if you're ready to dive into that, then let's go. Well, welcome to the show, everyone. My name is Ben Pierce, and I'm your host on the Winning Platform Owner Podcast. Glad you joined us today for the podcast dedicated to helping ServiceNow platform owners win, which really boils down to getting just a little bit better every day. It's the old 1% better idea. If we can get just a little bit better each day, then over time, that means great improvement. So if you have a topic you'd like to hear covered on the show that you feel would make you a better ServiceNow platform owner, I want to do that. So let me know about that. I'll throw my LinkedIn contact in the show description, and you can connect with me that way, and we can talk about what you want to talk about on this podcast. All right, so the idea of training is not new. I think everyone would say that you need to have good training associated with a ServiceNow implementation. And by the way, when I say training on a ServiceNow implementation, I'm not just talking about a brand new implementation of ServiceNow, although that is one of the scenarios. The other scenarios are an implementation of new capabilities on an existing instance, like if you're beginning to implement major incident management or strategic portfolio management or application portfolio management. There are tons of things that you could be in the scenario where you have an existing instance and you're implementing something new. So those are what I'm talking about as well when we talk about good training. But let's face it, the term good training can mean a whole lot of things to a whole lot of different people. But what I'd like for us to spend a few minutes on today is really a key role that you want to think about that should be very well trained. And then the timing of that training, which is important. And also, of course, the content of that training is important. And if we get these things done that we're going to be talking about today, it makes our lives so much easier as a platform owner. And it really makes your team's life easier as well, the ServiceNow platform team, because you create kind of this bunch of true partners in creating value on the platform instead of a set of consumers that you are just responding to, right? So what I want to talk about today is the who. This is a key role. Won't be any surprises to you, I'm sure. And then the when to train this role, and then what to train them on. Yeah, not a lot of rocket science today, but over and over again, I seem to see this same kind of scenario play out where an organization implements a process area on the platform, and it's very powerful, as we know, and they can do a lot of cool things. They could totally change the game in that process area using the ServiceNow platform, and they don't do it. And it's because they simply don't understand the power of the platform. And they haven't been given a chance to understand the power of the platform. So that's really why we're talking about it, because I feel like a platform owner has a really good opportunity to make this happen for this role. So first, the who. What is this role? It's the process owner or process manager. These are the folks who are doing the day-to-day operation of the process. And it's probably easiest for most people to think of this in terms of the ITSM processes, but this can be applied to any process, whether you're over there in the financial operations or whether you're over in strategic portfolio management and you're talking about project managers. It's the same type of thinking, but we're going to stick with the ITSM processes. So these process owners or managers, these are the folks who are, like I said, their day-to-day operations in the process. They are the ones that are making the process work at their organization. So that is the who. You really need to focus on them. And if your process owner and your process managers are different, it's a different person. Maybe someone higher up in the organization is the process owner, and then you have kind of the day-to-day managers. You want to target those day-to-day managers. And the reason is they're the ones that need to understand the capabilities in their process area, what they can do on the platform, and really have a really good understanding of how that process area works on the platform. So that's the who. Pretty easy. Process managers. Process owners, sometimes when the person who owns the process is also managing the process. So, but it's that day-to-day person who is running the process. Next thing is, when do you train them? Early. As soon as you can get them trained, do it. This means prior to your implementation of their process capability, right? Sometimes if you're implementing the ServiceNow platform brand new, that means there's probably a lot of people that are going to be in this boat, right? You're going to want to get them going prior to your implementation. If you have an existing instance and you're just targeting like major incident management, then it's maybe a few less people, right? Do it prior to implementation for their process capability. And it also means prior to all the discussions and requirements gathering that typically goes on during an implementation. And you know what I'm talking about here. You decide to implement, and then you have some decisions to make around how you configure that particular application or module that's supporting that process. And many times people don't understand the capabilities of the process area, and so they misconfigure things. And so that's really important that these process managers, or sometimes process owners, the day-to-day folks, they are involved in those discussions and in that requirements gathering, and they can't just be a participant, right? That's not their learning time. They can't be a participant in all those discussions. They have to be a knowledgeable participant. And so if you were thinking, oh yeah, I'll just have my process managers in the room when we're discussing this and they can get their questions answered, I'll tell you that that sounds like a good idea, and I've actually personally done it that way. You're going to have limited success. It really will pay off if you get them trained up before you have those discussions. And yes, that takes a lot of forethought. It takes a lot of just kind of pre-planning and getting people to training sometimes way before they think they need it, but they really do need it. And you know what else it takes is it takes follow-up with those people and making sure that when they go to that training and when they experience all of that training and get all the content and are trying to level up, that you make sure they are leveling up, right? And they just didn't go and kind of go brain dead during the training and not learn anything. You kind of have to follow that up as a platform owner. Other duties as assigned, right? So the when is very important. Early, as soon as you can get them trained, and that's before implementation. It's before discussions around requirements. and they need to be knowledgeable participants. And I'll tell you how much of a difference this makes. So I see it all the time. I work for a partner in the ServiceNow ecosystem called Crossviews. They're a great partner, and I'm very happy to be working with them. And a lot of the customers that we run into, you can tell the difference. If somebody has trained up on the module that they are a process manager for, you can tell the difference. And so if they haven't, they really just are like I described, mere participants as we're going through these requirements. But if they have, they tend to ask really good questions, and they can do something that actually a partner has a hard time doing, or it takes us longer to do. And that is, they can apply it to their internal business processes very quickly because they know it, they understand it, and they know where they're going to need to change, and they know why they're doing the things that they're doing, right? So the ability to get them trained up early is only going to be a benefit to you as a platform owner. So what do you train? We talked about who to train, when to train, what do you train? Well, you want them to have that process user level knowledge of their application, and they have to know what the application is capable of, right? They need to understand that. A great example of this is the change management application. Probably the best use case you could think about when we're talking about this process manager training and the understanding of what the application can do. Many times, a change manager who does not really understand everything that the change management application can do in ServiceNow will end up asking for customizations in the change management module, because they're trying to fit their old process onto this new tool in change management on the ServiceNow platform without understanding, oh, I accomplished that by doing things this other way on the platform. So that's an easy example of if the process manager really knows the capability of the application on the platform, it saves a lot of time, because otherwise you go through the conversations of, well, here's why you can't do it this way. Here's why we don't want to make this customization. What if you did it this way? That all takes time. And if they already understand the capabilities of the application ahead of time, then you save all that time and you can get right to, okay, how do we need to configure this application, and where do we need to adjust process potentially? Where does other process user training have to happen? Those types of things. So that's just an example of where the process manager understanding the capabilities makes a huge difference. And then they can find all of this content on the process user content on learning.servicenow.com. That's a great place to start. You can go to that address, you can search for content and use the left-hand filters to filter by role and process user. And you can get some really good content depending, on whatever application that you're using. Our example here is ITSM, and there's a load of good training out there. But they really have to understand that. They have to internalize that process user level knowledge of that application and what the application is actually capable of. By doing this, as I mentioned earlier, what happens is, instead of that process owner kind of being a consumer of what you're producing as a platform owner, it flips the bit and they actually become partners with you in creating value, which is really fun because they understand what their part of the platform can do. They understand what they need to do. And then all of a sudden they're giving you really great requirements that your team can turn around and deliver on. And together, you are providing this great experience for the people that are using that platform. It's really something that a lot of people kind of overlook, is the training of these process managers or process owners. So target them early for that training. Get it before you're doing all of those initial discussions around requirements, and make sure they're coming into those and participating in those as knowledgeable participants. And you will see a lot more success in that particular process area. That's been my experience. So I wanted to share that in this episode. And that's the content I've got for you this week. I'm looking forward to next time, where we will unpack some of those AI features that were talked about at Knowledge 24 and talk about what's important to platform owners. What do we need to be thinking about? So look forward to that. Look forward to seeing you then. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on the Winning Platform Owner Podcast.